Hi, in this video, I will explain what is data-driven testing. Data-driven testing is a technique that the test data and the test scripts are kept separate. Usually, the test data comes from an external files. So this file could be an Excel or a comma separated value like CSV file. And of course, there are some type of other files that you can use as well. So this is the idea of the data-driven testing, that the data comes from an external files, and test data, and test scripts are kept separate. And usually the data are dynamic, meaning that every time your script runs, there is a different set of data. And I will show you that shortly with example. So in TestNG, we can accomplish data-driven testing, and by using this annotation. It's called add data provider. So if you define what is this method, what is this annotation? This annotation basically meaning that it returns a two-dimensional array of the object with the rows and columns. So what is the rows and what are the rows and what are the columns in this add data provider? The rows determine the number of the iteration, for example, how many times it runs. And the column determines the number of the input parameters, the number of the data that pass into the test with each iteration. So the best way to demonstrate is so that you guys get the idea is to do the demonstration. Let me actually show you what I mean by using the add data provider and how we can accomplish data-driven testing using the add data provider in TestNG. So let me actually open up this website. So this website, let's say that you want to test this login feature, right? And you want to test this with a different username and different password every time when you log in, not with the same, with a different username and different password. So how you can do that? All right. So as I said that, let's first create a class. And let's name this class data provider demo. Okay, so this is our class. And now let's write the data provider. So this is the data provider. Make sure it comes from the org TestNG. And within the data provider, you need to specify a name. For example, what name you want to specify. For example, I can say that I'm going to call this provider, right? So let's call this provider, and let's actually call it with a lowercase so that it doesn't cause any issues. All right, so this is our method, and now so the return type, as I told you at the beginning, the add data provider returns a two-dimensional array of the object. So the class is the object, and what we need to do, we need to add the object, and as I said, this is two-dimensional array, right? This is two-dimensional array. And after that, for example, let's call this test data, whatever name that you prefer, but I'm going to pick up this name. Okay, so that's the name. And then what you need to do is, this is what we need to do. And now, before everything, we need to return that, right? As you see that the return type is the object. And now we can say return new, and we are going to return this object, right? We're going to return this object. All right. So, and here is you have to have a comment. All right. So, as I already said, this is Mrs. Sorry about that. Provider. As I already said, now we can actually determine the number of the rows and also the number of the column. For example, how many rows how many iteration you want to create. For example, I can say one, okay, then 2 row, right? 2 row, comma, then I need to create 3 row, right? So let's say 3 row. We want to perform 3 iteration. And how many column inside that? For example, the column, make sure that the data comes with the, inside the double quotes, right? So let's say that we want to create the username, right? We want to create a username. And let me actually copy the username because it's already on the website. So first, this is the first username, and the password is the same for all of them, okay? Password is the same. And go back here and paste that. Okay, so as I said, the password is the same. Let me actually log it at the end. Okay, and now after that, we are going to log into with this username. And as you can see, every time we log in, there is a different login, right? So let me create copy the other one, copy, and now go back and paste it over here. Okay. All right. So now this is only one parameter. We want to create two columns, as I say, right? So what's the password? The password is secret sauce. Okay. So I'm going to copy that because the password is the same. So you assume that the password is different too, right? So the password could be different, but in this case, the password is the same. So the idea is that the data changes for every test case, right? It's not the same. So right now we have 3 rows, right? We have 1, 2, 3, meaning that 3 iteration is going to be performed. How many test data is going to pass? 1, 2, 1, 2. We got 2 sets of data. We got 2 input parameters that pass into the test. So once we create our method with a test with the add data providers, now we can use that, right? We can use this to like for the test. All right, so let me create actually a test. And right now, whatever the first thing that you need whenever you create your test, you need to have the data provider, and now you need to exactly use the same name, right? So copy that because you need to use the name for your test. All right, so I use the name, and now I want to call this name, let's say test multiple. So let's say multiple login, right? We are going to test with a multiple login. And right now, as I said that, how many test input parameter we pass? 2, right? 1, 2. Now we need two parameters, right? For example, one can say username, right? And the second we can say password, right? Password, because now we are passing 2, 1, 2. There are 2 columns, 1, 2, 1, 2. We can actually make it 3 or 4 column, but it should be enough in this situation. All right. So right now, let's say that I want to log in, right? What I can do, let's actually find this element. How we can find this element is pretty easy. So the ID, username, user dash name is ID. Let me actually see the password is the ID is the password. And for login, this is for the login, right? So because this is pretty easy, I'm just going to do it a little pretty quick. So what we need to do is, first of all, I'm going to copy the parts with a driver because we need to copy the driver, right? So what I need to do is I'm going to copy the before and after method. All right. So before and after method, I think you guys are already familiar with. So it basically, let me actually do that. So it runs for every test case, right? It opens up the URL and then it closes the browser, the after method. Okay. All right. So now that we have done this, what we need to do, we need to find that element, right? So, okay, fine. We're going to use it directly. You're not going to actually. So let's say this is for the username, and it was what? User name, right? Now we want to send our username, and we can say username, right? Now for the password, same thing. ID. And what was the ID for the password? It was password, right? What we want to do with the password, again, we are going to use the send keys. and we are going to use password. Okay. And finally, we are going to use the login button. What was the login button? It was, let me actually copy that again. Login dash button, right? Login dash button. Okay. All right. So paste this, and what do you want to do? We want to click on it, right? So right now, as you can see, the username, right? So as I told you, the rows determine the number of the iteration. One row, we got one row, two row, three row. Now it's gonna run 3 times, right? Because the number of the rows is 3. And how many test data passed? Input parameters, 1, 2, 1, 2, and 2 input parameter, which is username and password, is passed. So let's run this, see what happens. All right, okay, so this is 1, right? Okay, and this is second time. All right, and this is the third time, right? Okay, and this is the third. So let's say that, as I told you, let's say that if we copy one more time, then in that case, what's gonna happen? As I told you, the row determines the number of the iteration. Now we have 5 iteration, right? In that case, you can simply add one more. Now we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 iteration, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so let's run that again. We are going to run our test case. It's going to run 5 times. All right, 1 time, 2 time, and as you can see, the username every time is different, right? That is the idea of the data-driven testing, because you fetch in different set of data, not the same data, different test, different username and different password for every login. All right, and now as you can see, I say that test pass 555, right? 5 of 5 tests. All right, so this is how you can use data providers to achieve the data-driven testing and TestNG. Thank you for watching. I will see you guys in the next video.